Hello everyone, I hope everyone is having a good day and a productive day. I'm going to be painting an iris flower. Irises are blooming right now during the springtime. They're absolutely beautiful. I really like the transparency that the leaves have, and I like that the leaves have these like ruffled textures on the end. So I'm going to be painting these using Watercolors by Arteza. I will leave a link below where you can get these Arteza paints. And I'm going to use a wet to wet technique. I'm also using Arteza's watercolor paper, which is their premium watercolor paper. It's 100% cotton, so it has a lot of texture and it's in cold press. So I'm just wetting the paper in the shape of the iris for like 3 of the leaves. And you can see the water on the paper. I'm using a brush by Home Hobby, which I'll leave below as well. And I'm just going to try to build up color. I'm not using ink on this tutorial. I'm just using the watercolors. So it's going to take some layering to do. So I've dipped my brush into a purple color in the palette. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to sort of like follow the ripples or the shapes that are in the leaves, and sort of trying to mimic the outside ruffles of the iris as well. Alright, so I'm just taking the tip of the brush to create some line drawings for some parts of the leaf, or some parts of the flower petal. Alright, so that's pretty much the base of the iris flower. I'm going to build some more purple color, and I'm using the same purple color. I'm not really mixing it with anything. I'm just using different pressures to press down and to let go when it's time for the light areas. It's really all about shadow, hue, and tone. You can use one color and make the whole flower look 3D with just one color. And I really want this to mimic the textures. To me, like the shape of the iris flower is truly what makes it realistic, but it's also all of these different textures that the flower petals have on the surface is what you want to get down. You don't want to make it look too flat. I'm not the painter that fills in every crevice and piece of a flower. So for the middle part, I'm using some yellow watercolor from Arteza. Alright, so I've blended the yellow out, and as you can see, the watercolor has dried lighter. It's one thing, a difference between watercolors and inks. The inks kind of dry with the texture, but the watercolors dry lighter. So I'm using a green color by Arteza from the same palette to create the stem of the iris flower. And I've just used the side of my brush pretty heavy so that there's a thicker line. And you can see the difference between the stem line and the flower line. Okay, so iris flowers have these little textures on the flower petals, and they sort of go in a curve as the leaves start to curve over. And they are just like, not dots, but just these small like needle lines. So I'm going to mimic those. And I've just dipped my brush into a mixture on my palette. On my palette, I usually don't clean my palettes, so it has a lot of mixtures of colors. So I've dipped my brush into like a green purple mixture, which is fine. We're going to add some white and gold to it once we start to finish, and that'll sort of make these little stipples pop, especially against the iris color. So I've dipped my brush into more of the watercolor paint pretty aggressively. And I'm lightly outlining the flower without outlining every detail, just sort of outlining the areas where the flower can be enhanced. All right, so for iris flowers, and I'll show you in a minute how they have a leaf that sort of curves over in the middle, and it kind of covers the flower bed. It almost like looks like a protective barrier for the flower head. I've drawn that, and I'm going to enhance it by adding white around it and white on the leaves. So this is a white color by Arteza. This is from their tube watercolor painting line. It comes in 24 colors. And I'm using titanium white. So I'm really using the white to define the shapes of each flower petal. And to really like bring this flower to life, I'm using white. All right, I'm using a gold brush by Kuretake, and I just want to show you the textures that I was pertaining to. This is a brush, one of my favorite brush pens. It is a gel brush pen. I got it from Japan, and I wish I had gotten more because I'm running low on ink, but you can create some very fine, thin, beautiful lines. It glides across paper just like paint. It's one of my favorites. So I've used that to sort of enhance that texture in the middle. I'm adding some more white, as well as a little bit of white to the leaves. And that is our finished iris flower. Very beautiful, loose. It has so much detail without being overbearing. And I love that there is a lot of space on the outside. And I have an online class teaching you everything that you need to know about flower paintings if you're interested in that. And I also want to let you know about a class that I'm teaching now. It went live this past weekend. It is called Tulip Painting Around the World. It's a class focusing on how to paint tulips literally from every part of the world. We've painted 8 to 9 different species of tulips, as well as a guideline showing you how to paint them and how to get the colors very loosely. You can sign up for that course by going to keysincolor.teachable.com. I'll also leave a link for that below, and it's one of the most exciting online painting classes that I've taught. So if you're interested in that, I definitely suggest, well, if you're interested in learning more about flower paintings and how the proper way of mixing colors and everything, I definitely suggest that you check out that course. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great, productive, and creative week, and I will see you on the next video. Ciao.